We're live. Thank you, Rob, for joining me for this live session. How are you, mate?
You're more than welcome, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. How's the life been throughout this pandemic?
Pretty good here in the country. We haven't had the same lockdowns as the city, so it's pretty much life as normal for us here. I work from a home office, so it doesn't really make any difference to me.
Okay. Uh, you basically don't have an office job. Uh, you work from home.
Yes.
Okay. In the routine days as well, or only just for these pandemic days?
No, this is what I do. This is all I do. Mm,
Oh,
yeah.
I guess that's wonderful. I guess uh, that's a dream job for anyone. I mean, like you don't have any transport costs.
That's exactly right. There's no transport, there's no crowds, there's no fighting for things at all. And when I get a little bit bored with work, I go and do some cooking or go and play in the garden.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, let's just move on to our topic for today. As
Yeah.
we already had planned to discuss about the cricket post-COVID. As you
Yes.
know, day after tomorrow, Pakistan's cricket team is leaving for England. What are your thoughts on whether they should have played the game or they should not have left for England?
That's a tough one, isn't it? Because the news out of England regarding COVID at the moment, in the last couple of days, has not been very encouraging. And I believe they're not allowed to play park cricket either. So not really quite sure how well this tour is going to go ahead. Like you, I hope it goes ahead. I want to see some cricket happening, but I'm not sure England's the best place to be playing cricket at the moment.
You're right, because I've heard plenty of the cricketers have been tested positive as well.
Yeah, I know that was very unfortunate. The players who've been tested positive, but I believe that the bulk of the team are okay to go.
But don't you think this is a risk that's not worth taking? I mean, like this could lead to a disaster. I mean, not just for the Pakistani team, for the English officials as well.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I agree with you. I agree with you. It really has all gone a little bit murky over the last couple of days. It's only the last couple of days where it's gotten really bad. Um, uh, there's probably justification to call the trip off. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not in a position to make a call on that.
Okay. Well, I guess it will be totally a different cricketing world after COVID. I mean, like we won't be seeing a full house for a while, and I guess that's gonna have an impact on the cricketers' ability to perform under pressure once they get the crowd back.
Yeah. I, it's hard to know where it's going to go because it was going fine here in Australia, and then in the last few days in Victoria, where the capital is Melbourne, of course, the MCG, the big important cricket ground. All of a sudden, Victoria has gone backwards in the last few days. The rest of the country's going fine, but Victoria is in a bit of trouble. So, where we thought that there would not be a problem at all during the summer, there, there may still be bits of COVID lurking around for us too. So yeah, it's hard to predict what's going to happen in a matter of months. But the Australian season does not start until about September,
Right.
um, and there are some of us still hopeful the World Cup will go on.
Well, I don't think so. It looks quite difficult to hold the T20 World Cup. I guess that's scheduled in September or October, I guess.
I think October, November. So there's still plenty of time. And the rest of us, you could come to Adelaide. You could hold the whole World Cup in Adelaide, no problem. You could go
Okay.
to Perth. Perth is
Uh,
okay. Perth and Adelaide are okay. So you could quite conceivably hold it there, although I'm not quite sure how that would run.
But Rob, the players who arrive at your location must be COVID negative. That's the main issue. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's the issue which England is going to face just because few of the Pakistanis were tested positive and they
But the
had
rest,
difficulty
yeah,
traveling.
The rest of the team wasn't tested positive, though. They came through negative. My understanding is that the bulk of the Pakistani team tested negative.
Well, you're right. I guess it was only Hafiz's test, which was quite dubious because he had tested himself thrice, which gave him positive once and negative twice. That's what created the confusion for the board and him as well.
Look, I think that the coming 6 months are just going to be a little bit tricky for everybody. And certainly, you know, here in Australia, we can think, okay, well, it's probably going to be okay when our summer comes around. But I can understand England and the ECB wanting to get cricket going as quickly as possible because, that's a generator of money. At the
Yeah,
moment, they're all sitting around scratching their navels. Yeah.
yeah. Right now, I really believe the cricket's gonna lose its charm because having we won't be having full houses anytime soon, and the cricket's gonna be played indoor.
Yeah, well, I don't know that that's entirely correct. I don't know what's happening in England, so I can't speak with any authority there. But next week, I think from July the 1st, which is next week, the rugby league competition here in Australia will allow in certain venues 10,000 people. So already we're talking about having crowds back here. Now, again, summer's a few more months away, so there's a possibility. Test cricket here in Australia, it draws a crowd, but perhaps in some of those other places where around the world that don't attract big crowds for Test cricket, it's probably not really a problem.
Okay. Okay. Now let's just move on to non-COVID questions. Uh,
Yep.
don't you think that the creation of Big Three has impacted the other teams? Just like, don't you believe the lobby between England, Australia, and India has impacted the other cricketing nations? Like most of the major events are held in these countries, and which have an impact on the revenue of the other countries.
Okay. Well, you can look at it in a few ways. I'm not in agreement with the whole big three concept for starters. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think any right-thinking person believes that that's a good way to go. That said, the big cricket is in England. It is in Australia. It is in India. It certainly isn't in New Zealand. As much as we'd like it to be, they don't draw the same crowds. It isn't in South Africa. It should be. They should have packed houses. But you put a test match on in South Africa and you scratch to get a crowd. Pakistan is, of course, a different story. We'd all love to see patrons back there at Lahore, at Karachi. We really would love to see Test cricket back at Pakistan. But the big cricket is in those other three nations, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to wield all of the power with regards to the game. I think the power should be shared.
Okay. All right. Don't you think that ICC has a different set of rules for different cricketing nations? I mean, like the Asian teams are more. The Asian teams have to suffer more uh, when it comes to the law as compared to the rest of the teams.
I don't really understand that question. You might have to rephrase it. You're saying that the ICC is not as
Now, as
helpful to
strict
the
for
ACC.
uh, for me, I personally believe that ICC has a stricter co- uh, code of conduct for the Asian teams as compared to the non-Asian teams.
Oh, yeah. Okay. When you say code of conduct, you're referring to what? Um,
The disciplinary
Throwing,
code of the disciplinary code of conduct.
right? I I wouldn't necessarily agree with you, but yeah, because I think from an Australian perspective, I think we get the raw end of the stick a fair bit. So I think it might depend on where you live. Yeah,
Okay, you mean it's up to the individual's perception?
I think it might be. Yeah, it might be. I mean, Asia is terribly important to cricket. So it's important for the ICC to keep Asia on board. It's the biggest growth market. It's the biggest market in the world. For goodness sake, we can't go annoying our Asian friends. That would be counterproductive.
But what about the dual standards like ICC has? Like I was listening to Wasim Akram that day. He was talking to Greg Chappell and another few lads over there, and he was saying that there was a time when Wasim and Wakar used to reverse swing, and they used to get blamed for tampering the ball. When
Yeah,
Australia
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
when Australians and the Britishers learned the art of reverse swing, they said it's reverse swing, and there was no allegations regarding the ball tampering.
Yeah, it's because Aussies aren't very good at
Okay, that's the reason.
it. It's still I mean, Wasim and Wakar were doing that what late '80s, early '90s,
Early
and still, yeah, and still the Aussies we're not great masters at it. No, absolutely not. But it'd be hard to go past Wasim and Wakar anyway. For that art, I don't think I've seen anybody better than them anyway. So yeah.
okay. Okay.
But I do take your point with regards to it. It was, I remember at the time they were accused of ball tampering, but
Ball tampering.
um, from afar, because that was mainly in the UK. From an Australian perspective, we didn't really care because they were beating England.
I guess that's the rivalry which came in between.
Yeah.
Okay. What what makes an Australian team different as compared to others? I mean, like, is it the fitness standard or the technical and professional qualities?
Fitness has always been important for us, and fielding has always been particularly important for us. And I noticed that in both the men's game and also the women's game. The Australian men and the Australian women are just a level above, generally speaking, in overall fielding as a team unit. Not just the one or two like a Jonty Rhodes or someone like that. I'm talking about the entire team from 1 to 11. Generally, generally very, very good in the field, and I that wins Australia Test matches.
Okay. So let's just talk about something that's not quite appealing for a cricket fan. That is match fixing.
Mm.
Why is it so that cricketers, despite being heavily paid, fall victim for such things?
Uh, Look, it's a curse on the game, isn't it? And every one of us simply doesn't want to have it hanging around in any way, shape, or form. It is hideous, and it must be stamped out. And if anybody is caught tampering, personally, I'm quite happy with a life ban. Um, I know that is not very nice to the likes of Salman Butt or Amir. But at the end of the day, if an Aussie was caught match fixing, you can guarantee the entire country would say, "Never again, mate. You're not playing for us again. We don't do that."
Because I remember Shane Warne and Mark Waugh being, no, Mark Waugh exactly to be exact, being accused of match fixing back in 1994, 95.
Yeah, I remember that too. It was very big at the time because there were other cricketing nations who were pretty happy to point the finger at Australia for a change, of saying, "Well, you guys point the finger at us, and you guys aren't doing anything about it yourselves." Uh, and that was probably a fair allegation. Um, but to my knowledge, the line comes out they were just giving pitch and weather information, which the bookmaker could have gotten out of the newspaper anyway. That's their line. I'm not saying that that's exactly correct, but that's what was given, and that was how it was treated at this end. But if there were any other thing like that, I mean, the cricketers know very well at the moment that if they were to step out of line in that respect, see you later, mate.
Okay. Don't you think the legality of the betting has been the main reason for this match fixing? I mean, like the betting is illegal, and when it comes to match fixing, that's illegal, which draws cricketers to go for such things.
Yeah, yeah. It's you'll have to excuse me moving around a bit here for a sec. Um, it's I left something on the stove. Um, thanks. Um, yeah, I don't know where to. I don't know. I mean, the cricketers are well paid, although I don't know how well they're paid in Bangladesh because Shakib Al Hassam. I don't know whether that was something that connected him with that. Although he's never been accused or convicted, I think his crime was not reporting having had contact with somebody. So we'd better make sure that we're not saying the wrong thing there by him. It was only an allegation, I think. Uh, how well are they paid there? I don't know. I mean, cricketers the world over seem to get a fair amount of money now.
Okay. Don't you think it's
I,
the responsibility of
it's hard to,
isn't it
it's hard to answer. Mm.
okay? Isn't this the responsibility of the board to punish them, or should they, or should ICC must intervene in this rule?
Oh, that's a very good question, isn't it? I th I I think it's got to be in the hands of the ICC. I don't know whether the individual boards are able to do it. I mean, we see it. The individual boards dish out different punishments, don't they? Look at the ball tampering thing. The ICC gave the Australian pair or the trio, Warner, Bancroft, and Smith, the standard ICC bans. Yet the Australian board themselves put on a much heavier penalty than meted out by the ICC. So. But whereas another country might have treated it differently and said, okay, well, that's the penalty, boys, don't do it again. I don't think that it should be within the hands of the boards. I think probably the ICC should be handling all of those sort of things. Yeah.
Okay. Um, if you've got to choose between Shoaib Akhtar and Brett Lee, who would you choose?
uh,
I know Brett Lee was far more disciplined as compared to Shoaib Akhtar. That's what I totally agree.
I wish you'd given me two other bowlers. Neither of them are particular favourites of mine. I really did enjoy watching Brett Lee bat more than I enjoyed watching him bowl. He had a very good action, and he was very quick and, as you say, quite disciplined. Shoaib was a bit more of a wild card and probably a bit more of a showman on the field. I mean, you could have mentioned any number of other Pakistani bowlers, and I'd have gone, yeah, that guy. Right.
Wasim
So I
Akram
would
and who would you choose?
I'll say with these two, I'll say Bing. I'll go for Brett Lee.
No, when it comes to Wasim Akram and Imran Khan, who would you go with?
Wasim.
Wasim. The reason?
Yeah.
I'm like, he also has been having those allegations regarding the.
Yes, I know. Yeah, it's come out. I think was it Amir Suhail, one of the former Pakistani players, was out. I'm not quite sure whether it was Amir, but I seem to remember something like that.
Amir
Just
Sohail,
yesterday.
Amir Sohail and Rashid Latif, both of them accused him.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, Wasim to me is a bit of a hero. I think he was just such a phenomenal.
He's undoubtedly one of the most valuable bowlers in the history of cricket.
Yeah, unarguably one of the greatest bowlers in cricket. Left arm quick bowler. I just love the option of a left arm quick bowler. I'm a big fan of Mitchell Starc. I loved Johnson when he could get it on the wicket. So yeah, that's why I would choose Wasim over Imran. But yeah. Yeah, and both of them could bat very well. I mean, both of them. I don't reckon that we saw the best of Wasim batting. I think he could have batted up the order, but it's a moot point.
Okay, now let's just move on to your books. You've written two books, the Captain's File.
And, yeah, Captain's File series. Yep.
Okay, and what's that about? Is it based on the Indian cricket?
Oh no, it's based. Well, I've written two books in the series. It's a series, so it's ongoing. Um, the first one was about the Indian Test cricket captains from C.K. Naidu up to Virat Kohli. Well,
All
actually,
right.
I've added Rahane in because he's done a couple, so I've updated the book a couple of times. So about the Indian men, and I had actually started on the Pakistan men when
Oh,
I changed course and I went on to the Australian women. So the Australian women was my second book, and uh, I am currently working on the English women, Test cricket captains. This is, and then I'll go back to Pakistan and I'll make
okay.
amends there and I'll get the Pakistan one out
Well,
because
that's
it's a very rich history. There's some really great characters. I mean, when you're writing about cricketers, you're writing about characters. It's not just about numbers and statistics. These are real people. They've got history, and some of them are just really amazing people to write about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing the Pakistan one as well.
okay. That's quite interesting, and it's really amazing when I hear such things about Pakistan from somebody in areas like Australia and England. Okay. Uh, Rob, my last question before we wind up. Don't you think the T20 cricket has overruled and has overshadowed the charm of cricket?
Yes.
I mean, like, there's no technique. They don't need to plan something like that. They simply just have to slog. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. you you won't get an argument out of me with this one.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Rob. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Okay.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure speaking with you as well.
Same here. Take care. Bye.
No worries. Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.